Welcome to another adventure with Getting Lost. We are back at Haw Par Villa to tell you another series of stories called Virtues and Vice. Basically, these are stories based on Chinese culture that tackles issues and explains about virtues and vices. So let's get going. Virtue, to the traditional Chinese, is the most important set of moral rules to follow. This is strictly upheld and usually related to religious and moral teachings such as Confucianism. One example of a famous Confucian saying is, "The act of giving is the reward itself." The stories in this series provide practical lessons for all ages on how to behave. Being thrifty and saving up for a rainy day are important steps of virtue. This is especially true if one is poor, and be sure to stay away from stealing as shown here. The caverns below shows the sad life of beggars who were forced to survive on the charity of others. This also teaches us to share our wealth and do good deeds as we will be rewarded. The Chinese belief in retribution for misdeeds is depicted in this case of the police catching thieves trying to run off with a stolen chicken and some clothes. In the top cavern, it shows the vices of a Shanghai night scene and a Hong Kong cabaret show in the 1950s. Wealth is much desired, but it can become harmful if not spent properly. Time and money is seen here to be wasted on wine and women. This usually spoils one's health, creates distraction from work and family life, which are far more meaningful. The road to wealth is often tough, and thus the virtue here is that hard-earned money should be put to good use. One way is to invest into the community to improve it and benefit everyone. This way, one can be selfless and pave the way for future generations. The top left scene shows both young and old folks displaying teamwork in catching fish and building a bridge. The power of cooperation makes hard tasks easier, and their smiles reflect enjoyment. In contrast, the scene below shows idle young ones gambling and smoking opium. The gateway with the tiger emblem acts as a barrier to protect them from the vices. While being generous, like the old man at the top who gives rice to the needy, one has to be careful not to fall into debt like the man below who first loses his pig, then his wife to the debtors when he is unable to pay up. The diorama in front of us is actually dedicated to the Buddha Da Tian Fo, who is better known as Qigong from the Tang Dynasty. He traveled around the country dressed as a dirty-looking monk in torn and tattered robes to observe the people around him. Famous for working miracles, saving lives, and helping the poor and weak through his magic, he sits at the center with two monks flanking him. On the top left of the rock platform are the Diamond King of the East with a colorful face and the Diamond King of the West with a sword. Behind him is Sakyamuni Buddha, joined by Wenju and Wenxian. The latter is said to guide Buddhism's teachings. On the right are the Laughing Buddha and the Goddess of Mercy with heavenly deities Ne Zhang, Ne-jia with a spear, and Mu-jia with a magic whisk. The ruler of China, Liang Wudi, is seen here with his minister and advisor in the 6th century AD. He is a good example of the close links between religious piety and virtue. Liang Wudi is thought to have brought Buddhism to the country. He built many temples, behaved religiously, and practiced meditation. He extolled the virtue of hard work and influenced his court officials and people by example. In this display, you can see farmers and women hard at work while tree craftsmen are busy repairing the altar of the tree Buddhas. Nearby, a soldier crossing the bridge on horseback is warning the young couple of the hardships and dangers in life and not to be complacent. This well-loved tale speaks of being rewarded for one's good deeds. Wang Qing was a kind man who loved animals. One day, he felt sorry for a tortoise which was being carried to the market, so he bought it and set it free in the sea. Years later, the ship he was in sunk and most of the passengers drowned, while Wang Qing was rescued by this grateful tortoise. He then married an heiress and lived happily ever after. The top right display shows the 18 Lohan, who was famous for their supernatural powers. One of the Lohan, called Pindola, could ride a dragon and control wild animals. They are considered guardians of Buddhism and had at least 500 subordinates each. This series tells the importance of determination, loyalty, and hard work. The first tale is of Hong Fu-nu, who visited the Tang Dynasty's military strategist Li Jing on a bitterly cold night and gave him a winter coat as a love token. They then ran away to China's northern borders to serve the emperor. The second tale is of Han Yu, a Tang Dynasty scholar, and his nephew Han Xiangji, who tried to impart religious teachings to him. Han Xiangji became the patron saint of musicians and one of the 8 immortals. Qing Qian was the owner of a provision shop who spent his time gambling. Once, his wife couldn't cope with it anymore and asked their son to look for him. The son unfortunately was hit by a car and was killed. Last but not least, we see 2 students, Jia, who was hardworking, and Yi, who was lazy. After graduation, Jia became a bank clerk while Yi managed his father's store, but he could not understand the accounts and had to seek Jia's help. The man at the front, the right, is Yi, who is seen holding a book upside down. Another popular tale used to explain the importance of loyalty to friends warns of the consequences that betrayal could bring. The story tells of 2 boys in the woods for a picnic. One of them spotted a bear and ran away without his friend. The bear was fooled by the boy who was left behind as he played dead and thus gave chase to the other friend and killed him. In another version, the first boy who climbed up a tree saw the bear sniff at his friend who played dead. When he was safe, the boy asked what the bear did. The friend then replied sadly, "It's said never to trust a friend who betrays you in the middle of trouble." So that ends our series about virtues and vices. I hope this has been educational to you. I hope you learn more about Chinese culture, and I hope you enjoyed it. That's the important thing. I know it's a bit weird, it's a bit out of the normal topics that I actually cover, but the Hungry Ghost Festival is coming, so this is a very apt topic, and I know that you know what you should do. You should like, share and subscribe, and don't forget to join me for my next adventure. Bye bye.